to Momentum in Real Estate, your guide to success in the dynamic world of real estate. I'm Cory Wolf.
And I'm Kristin James. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned pro, we're here to help you reach new heights.
Success in real estate comes from learning, growing, and serving others.
Join us as we dive into strategies for lead generation, marketing, market trends, and client relationships.
Get ready to ignite your momentum and achieve your goals in real estate.
Let's dive in and unlock your full potential.
This is Momentum in Real Estate.
Well, Alicia Malamud is a realtor in Coral Springs, Florida, specializing in the South Florida market, including Miami, Coral Springs, Boynton Beach, and Pembroke Pines. Alicia is known for her professionalism, market knowledge, and hands-on approach. Whether working with first-time buyers or luxury sellers, she ensures a smooth, stress-free experience with exceptional results. Her strong negotiation skills and attention to detail have earned her a trusted reputation in the real estate industry. Welcome to the Momentum in Real Estate podcast.
Thank you.
We're so excited to have you, Alicia. So how about we start here? Tell us about your real estate story in your own words.
So first and foremost, I want to say thank you for inviting me on your podcast. One thing that I enjoy doing most is telling my story because I believe everybody can benefit from someone some way or another. And I started my real estate journey, believe it or not, back in 2004. And I started studying for the test and I was having a really difficult time. And then divorce happens. So now I'm in the middle of a divorce, trying to get my real estate license, and it was not going in the direction that I needed. So let's just say 4 tries on the real estate exam, and I was a day before my application was about to expire and going through a divorce. I said, you know what? Let me just put this down for a minute. So every couple years, I would pick up the book, put it down, pick up the book, put it down. And it wasn't until COVID. I was a blackjack dealer for a very well-known casino located down here in South Florida. So I was with the casino for 15 years and 13 at the time when I was going back to trying to get my real estate license. And it was during COVID, and we had just come back into the casino from working, to be in the general population. I was overwhelmed with all of the just lifing, right? So the lifing was getting difficult for me in the career that I had chosen, which is a blackjack dealer. I'm wearing rubber gloves, I'm wearing a mask, I have plexiglass in front of me. And I kept telling my husband, I'm like, I have to do something. He's like, what do you want to do? I was like, I don't know. I haven't put my finger on it yet. There was a situation that had happened while I was dealing on the blackjack game. And when I went home that night, as soon as I got off my shift and I walked into the garage, I picked up the phone, I called my husband, and I was hysterical crying, saying, I cannot do this anymore. I need to have a change. So he's like, what do you want to do? I was like, I'm going to move forward and get my real estate license. He goes, perfect. It's a perfect job for you. So January of 2021, I started, or shall I say, I attempted to pass the real estate exam again. And after the 3rd try, so now I'm 7 in, I finally did it, right? Finally got my license 7 times, but it's great because no one will ever ask you how many times you took the real estate exam unless you're part of like a real estate chat or someone new they want to know, right? Other than that, they're not going to ask you that. So it was so exciting, so liberating for me. I remember, and it was at home. So there was a proctor. And I remember sitting here in my dining room, exactly where I'm sitting here today. And I remember I started, when they said I passed, I started screaming. Now, mind you, I was still being proctoring, right? And I was like, oh, he's like, ma'am, we need you to calm down a little bit because, we can cut the test off for you. I was like, no. And I remember just that sense of excitement and happiness because I made it and I never gave up. So that's always been a very big part of my life. It doesn't matter what curveball has ever been thrown at me, whether it was divorce or death or disability. I was involved in a really bad car accident at one point in my life when I first moved to Florida. I am from New Jersey, by the way. And the doctor told me I'd never be able to walk normal again. The doctor told me I'd never be able to, wear 5-inch heels again. And I said, you don't know me, tell me what I need to do. So I've always been up for a challenge, and challenge has always been something that's been so good for my heart because it keeps me going. It gives me that energy to just keep going and never say no. Right. So now I am starting my real estate business, and I'm working pretty much full time as a blackjack dealer. I have 2 children and I'm married. So lots of juggling going on. So my shift for my casino job was from 2 to 10, 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. So I was literally getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, getting my children ready for school. And then I would start my real estate business at like 8 o'clock in the morning and literally work it until the minute I would walk into my casino job. And I did this strategically for 2 years straight. One thing that I really loved to do while I was building my business was educating newer agents. So in my office, I started my real estate business with rentals, and some agents, they won't go anywhere near a rental. For me, it was how I built my brand. It was how I built my business. And now what's happening, because I'm in real estate now 4 years, but what's happening, all those rentals that I did in the beginning of my career are now becoming buyers and are also referrals. And I've been truly blessed with being able to have that ability. But what I loved most was when I was becoming the rental queen, is what they call me in the office, I was educating other agents. And in the meantime, I was also in a coaching program, because having a mentor in this business is needed. Nobody knows what they're doing. The real estate school does not teach you how to become a realtor, right? It just gives you the book and says, here is your certificate. Now go figure it out, hire yourself a mentor, and make sure you do the job well, right? So my coach at the time said to me, did you ever think about coaching? And I said, you know what? I would love to be a coach. So I started slowly applying for the position, working my full-time job, working my real estate business full-time. And I remember I was on my way to work. I had just worked with a buyer, and I stopped at my house to get a bite to eat because it was local. I'm in the car on the phone with the buyer, Bluetooth, mind you. It wasn't handheld, so I was being safe. And as I was on my way to work, it started raining. My car went into hydroplane mode, and I literally 360'd across the highway, facing north in the southbound lane. I remember that day clearly because that was my moment. That was my moment to say, I need to pick a choice. I need to choose a career. I need to make a choice. I remember calling my job that day, and I'm like, I can't come in. And I remember going home, and I prayed and I cried with my family. And I went to work the next day, and I said, thank you for all the years you have given me. I am thankful. I have built my real estate business. I have met my husband here. I have had some great memories working for the casino. But it's time for me to make a choice. And my boss at the time says to me, we knew this day was coming. We're really happy for you. And if you ever want your job back, we're here. Doors always open. So I called my coach that night and I said, listen, I've made some changes. And he's like, what's that? I said, well, let's just say I had a really bad car accident, and I'm thankful that I'm here to have this conversation with you today. And I said, and I quit my job. He goes, okay, well, you're throwing a lot at me right now, but this is all great stuff. I said, why is that? He goes, because we're going to offer you the coaching position. So it was so crazy how everything just kind of came around full circle. And I never say the accident was supposed to happen, but I believe in signs. I believe that things they happen in your life for a lesson or a reason. And I truly believe that was God's way of telling me, okay, you need to pump your brakes and you need to figure out your true path. So I gave my 2 weeks. I remember walking out of my job. I had a great day that day. I had some great customers on the table. I remember walking out of that job like, oh my God, what did I just do? Because a big part of my database was from the casino. Like a huge part of it. Like I would say like 70% of my database came from my referrals, my coworkers referring me out. I'm like, did I just do something wrong here? How am I going to get clients? Like that was my fear. And I'm like, you got this. And if I tell you the day that I left, my business literally tripled the first year I was in real estate. And it was so mind blowing to me because the one thing that people do the most is they have fear, right? And they let fear overpower them and their decisions of what their real possibilities could be. And, working a 9 to 5, I always say you are basically addicted to the paycheck and you're fearing the possibilities of what could be next by moving out on your own and venturing out on your own. I always believe, like, right now, this is my life by design. Like, I love the fact that yesterday I didn't want to work. I spent the whole day with my husband. Like, it was great. I don't spend a lot of time with him lately. So being able to just take the day off and spend that day with him, because that was a decision I chose. I didn't need to call in. I didn't have to use a sick day. I didn't need to take a point. I didn't need to jeopardize my job because my business is my business and I'm the CEO of who I am. So I love what I do. I have a super supportive team of not only family, but who I do business with. So from my lenders to my title company to my inspectors to my peers, I do a lot of volume, and I always have agents who are willing to work with me, do showings for me, do open houses with me or for me, shall I say. So that's pretty much a little bit about me. I have been a top producing agent since the moment I walked into Keller Williams. This year, well, 2024, I was #1 individual agent for the most leased units in the office, or units total. I was #3 in, was it volume or so? I can't remember which one it was. I have them inside. I can always pull it out if you like. But I love rewards, but it's just to feed my ego, not for any other reason. Some people like pats on the back. My husband always says, were you deprived of as a child for compliments? I was like, no, that's my love language, right? Affection and compliments. That is my love language. So if you feed me with awards, I love that even better. I don't care if it's like a little gold sticker that you put like right here on my shirt said you did a good job. I'm all about it, right? So yeah, I just love what I do. I love building relationships because at the end of the day, this is truly what this business is about. I have never paid for a lead. My business is completely 110% organic, and it has been built on referrals and reviews. That is truly what my business has been built on. Don't get me wrong, I have to put in a lot of work. Social media is a big part of my business as well. I've gained a lot of leads from just joining all these Facebook groups and someone saying, hey, I'm looking for a realtor. And, I always say if you're within like the top 5, because they're usually going to get about 384 agents that are trying to win that position. But if you can say you can be in that like top 5 and grab their attention, and then send them, I always say, I send them a message, check your DM or your PM or IM, whatever they want to use. And in that little small sentence, I'll just go and I'll say, well, I know you're looking for a rental, and they call me the rental queen in my office, and you could check my Google reviews. And I'm a big part of my reviews as well. It's something I nurture and nature it 110% because I want people to know what it's like working with me, right? I want people to know what it's like being in business with me. So when I'm building my review database on Google, it's not just who I've sold a house to or whose house I sold. It's who we do business with, right? So I would think that someone would want to know, how do I work well with other realtors? Because we all know there are some agents out there, boy, you got to put your tongue aside and just hold it because they can really work your nerves, right? But I always try to kill them with kindness, right? But I'm also from Jersey, so sometimes my Jersey comes out, but I try to be as professional as I can. But I always ask after a transaction has been completed, whether it's on the list side, buy side, rent side, whatever. I asked them to do a review, what it was like working with me. Why not? Right? And you're just building and building. I know I get when I go down the rabbit hole of reading reviews, right? We always want to, it's just a force of habit. We always go to the smallest review, meaning the smallest star, to the biggest, right? Everyone can admit that they always look at the worst reviews before they look at the best reviews, right? Because they want to see, how can this place be bad, right? And you don't want it to be bad, but you see a couple 1 stars, you're going to read those first. I have taken pride in all of my 5-star reviews. So I'm very blessed and thankful for everybody who has trusted me to not only help them provide their new lifestyle for them, but the people that I'm working with as well.
That's amazing, Alicia. Like, wow. That was a lot you just downloaded for us, but I can tell that you're a go-getter and somebody with grit and determination. I mean, just your whole path to getting your license, and then how you've built and now like established your business. So that's incredible. One of the things, I'm sure like you, Cory and I analyze, national trends. We're looking at what's happening kind of in our industry across the board. We're seeing a shift in certain markets like yours to a buyer's market, which is
Yes.
A real difference for those of us who got started around COVID, because it was not a buyer's market at that time. And so I'm really curious if you could tell us, like, what trends are you seeing in the South Florida market, and how are they impacting buyers and sellers that you're working with?
So I just closed on a few sales just recently, like within the last 2 months, and on the buy side. And I cannot even explain to you how many seller credits I have been able to achieve for my buyers. On one property, they weren't even really looking. They just called me and they said, hey, we're interested in buying a house. We saw you on Instagram. You're friends with a friend of ours. I was like, great. I hooked them up with my lender right away. Let's see if we can get you pre-qualified for it. So we looked a little bit above what they were pre-qualified for. Not by much, just a little. And we found this dream house. We walked in the back. Now, mind you, we only looked at 3 properties. We walked to the back of the house, and it was on a canal, and they had 2 children, and they had a little bridge that went out into the canal where the kids could sit and fish. And it was almost like the vision became a reality, because when the 2 kids went out, they sat there, and I looked at my buyer. I said, this is the house. Like, this is the house. And it was so funny because the seller was relocating and he was older. So he's going to like an assisted living facility. And in his garage, he probably had about $1,000 worth of like fishing equipment that he just gave to the kids and said, enjoy. Right. And I remember I said, negotiating this transaction, and we were able to secure $23,000 in credits to give to the buyer to start their new journey. And to this day, the love that I have for them, I mean, I have love for all my clients, but to see the pictures now become reality of the vision, it warms my heart. I just, in the last, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, last 4 buyers that I've worked with, I've gotten as little as $5,000 in seller credits and as high as $23,000. So on the buy side, this is the time to buy. And if they trust you and they see what you're capable of doing for them, you become their biggest fan. And I'm not looking for a pat on the back. What I'm looking for is just to keep the momentum going, keep the happiness going, the relationships going, and watching the memories grow for my clients. I have one client as a buyer that I sold a few years ago. She sends me a picture of her nails every time she gets a manicure, because we both like to have our nails done. So we always do like fun little designs. So every time she gets her nails done, she does a new design on her nails. She always sends me a picture of them. And then I send her a picture of my nails back. I mean, and it, it warms both of our hearts, because we're both thinking of each other, right? Mm-hmm. There's some really great programs that are, where are you ladies from? What states are you from?
We're both in Western North Carolina.
Okay. So do you have the Hometown Heroes program in your city, or in your state, shall I say?
I think I am aware of it. And I think, yes, I believe actually we used it. Is it for veterans, teachers, police officers?
It was.
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
they've opened it up to everybody starting in July, right? And you can get up to like $35,000 towards your down payment. You need like a 640 minimum credit score, and you have to work a minimum of 35 hours in the state of, like, with a Florida-based business, right? And like this is going to open up a whole nother level of buyers, because that's what a lot of buyers have been waiting for. It's an amazing program, especially for first-time home buyers, or for, just they waited and waited and waited. A lot of people were waiting for the interest rates. Well, as we know, the interest rates have been fluctuating, especially in like the last couple weeks, up, down, like crazy. And I always say, buy that, what do they say? Marry the house and date the rate, right? So that's what I advise my clients, do it that way. And then if it comes down to the 2 or the 3 or the 4%, like we had like during COVID, then you can always refinance the property.
Gosh, I hope it never does. So insane. Yeah, having to offer way over ask. Yeah.
Right. And imagine just getting into the business at that time was so mind-blowing, because you really had to be creative. And I remember the first house I sold was to my my father-in-law, right? And it was a VA loan. And he was so thankful because he was ready to move into an apartment. I was like, hold on, Dad, let me see if maybe I could possibly get you pre-approved, and we did our magic and we made it happen for him. So back to what's going on in today's market, especially here in South Florida. Rents are starting to come down a little bit, right? Listing prices, you're seeing a lot of price reductions right now and a lot more days on market. So, if you price a house accordingly, the house will sell a lot faster. But that's just how the market is right now. The houses between the range of like 200 and I would say 600,000, they flat, right? Anywhere from like 6 to like 900,000, those are taking a little bit longer. And then a lot of the homes that are in the million and up, those are selling fast as well, because a lot of cash buyers. So, and there's just so much real estate here in South Florida. If you're going to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Brickell, these are all like the big cities. It's one building going up after another, after another, after another. Condos, the inventory for condos is like crazy right now. There's too much inventory for condos. So that's pretty much what's going on in today's market here.
Well, that's really helpful. All right, so let's go back to leads and how you've generated your leads. You said you've never paid for a lead. You said Instagram, but just share with us, how you're getting your clients and how you win their business.
So when I first started in real estate, a lot of it had to do with where I was working. Right. So it was one deal, then it was another, and then it was another. And then my name just kind of went around my job, like, Alicia with Keller, your favorite realtor, is the one that you want. Right. And that is a big part of how I built my business. And then it was just and referrals and referrals and referrals. And as far as social media is concerned, I would become active, like I said, in all of the Facebook groups. And then I was able to just kind of monetize on that with leads, because I was able to gain their trust. There's a really funny story about, it was the Coral Springs group that they had here, that they have on Facebook. And there was this woman who went on there. She was relocating from New York. She knew nothing about cities. She only knew about what city she wanted to go to and what zip code for her daughter's school. And I remember introducing myself via Facebook. And her sister was telling her, how could you trust her? You met her on Facebook. You don't even know her. She's like, she just seemed like she really knew what she was talking about. And she's from Coral Springs, so I figured I would do some business with her. We had a couple FaceTime conversations, so she got to see my face. She got to feel my personality. Then it was the hunt. Now, mind you, I was doing everything virtually. She didn't live here, so I had to go on all the tours virtually. I finally found the rental that she was happy with. And moving forward to today, we are great friends. Our children hang out all the time, and it was all because of Facebook and this one group. And that was so great. And it's such a great story because that's how I met one of my really good friends, was just I helped her look for an apartment virtually. So that's another way. Instagram is, I'm building my social media platform as we speak. And I took a course a couple weeks ago on how to become more relevant on social media. So I'm starting to follow the guidelines to become get more views, where people will see me more. And it's been pretty good so far. Like, I'm getting a few new followers here and there every day. And it's just because, sometimes somebody knows a little bit more than you. And that's the great thing about real estate, is that we have these nuggets to share. And listen, at the end of the day, it is extremely competitive business. Like, you're going up against some agents sometimes that have way more of a bigger history than you. But if you believe in who you are and in your personality, and you can shine, then you can win anybody over. It doesn't matter how many deals the other agent has done. I truly believe that, it's all about the connection that you make. I'm working with a buyer right now, and he's in the car business, and he could have chose any agent to work with, but I started telling him that my dad was in the car business. He was in the used car business in New York for many, many years. And right away, we made the connection. So that's pretty much how I'm just getting my leads, is just naturally.
That's awesome, Alicia. And I mean, I think that's the best way to build and grow a business, is as organically as possible. And you're living proof of that. And it's funny, you've addressed questions that we didn't even get a chance to ask you just in the course of your sharing. So you've covered a lot of ground for us, and I think for our listeners as well. And so we're super grateful for your time. I think in closing, I'd love for you to share. Do you set tangible goals for yourself each year? I mean, do you have a GCI goal? Do you have I want to help X amount of buyers and sellers? Like, unpack that a little bit for us. I think it's helpful to give our agents who are listening some hooks, of somebody who's achieving a lot of success in your market. How do you connect that with goal setting?
So it's funny you say that, because I am huge on goals. My first year in real estate, I closed 33 transactions, and I went to an award ceremony, not realizing I was even going to get one. I just went because my coach was getting an award. And I remember when they called my name, I came in third. I was like, and I was up against some very, very successful agents. Like, I was like, wow, me? I was like, this is awesome. Like, I never in a million years thought that I was going to get an award for that. So I set my goal for the next year. I said, okay, so this year I was in third place. Next year I got to be in second place, right? Because we always want to do 1% better every day, right? The following year I came in second, and I closed with 37 transactions. So I set a number for myself for 2024, and my number was 50. And I remember going to a training, and we had to write a letter to ourselves, mail it to ourselves, and then open it a year later, right? So I remember when I opened that letter, I was like, wow, 50. I wrote the number 50, and I hit 50 right on the dot, and I was number one for 2024. So I hit my goal. So next year for 2025, my goal is 75 transactions closed. So that is the next number that I will achieve. And as far as commission, I would love to make $350,000 a year. That is the number I'm shooting for. In my first 4 months, I'm very well getting on the track of meeting my goal. So how I do it is I just put my 2 feet forward, and I just keep it on the gas. And I don't stop, So my husband always says to me, he's like, you don't give yourself rest. I'm like, I'll give myself rest when I make the goals that I want to achieve. And I am very driven, and I don't stop until I get it done. That's just how my personality runs and how I've been my entire life. I believe I will achieve that goal. So what I'd like you ladies to do is keep me accountable and reach out to me in a year from now and I'll let you know exactly where I'm at.
Awesome. Do you have a reason why you want to hit 355? Like, are there trips? Are there like house projects? Like, is there a reason for that number, or is it just because you want to be better than last year?
So my number one reason is I want to retire my husband from his career. That's my number one goal. It's been my goal since I started my business. It makes me a little sensitive because he's my best friend.
You made me teary-eyed. I have a very similar goal, except I don't know that my husband wants to be retired. So it is, I would like to give him the opportunity to retire.
That's a better way to say it. And we want to start a business. So we're looking into like business opportunities so that this way the two of us can reach our goals together.
Oh,
yeah, hold on. Let me fix my eyelash here real quick.
That's amazing. Well, Alicia, thank you so much for your time and everything you've shared with us today. I hope our listeners just go away with all the things and like feel your drive as we are feeling it right now. All right. Well, have a great day.
Thank you. Bye, ladies.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Momentum in Real Estate. We hope you found valuable insights and strategies to propel your real estate journey forward.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to deliver content that resonates with you. Remember, success in real estate is about continuous learning, growth, and serving others. Keep that momentum going and watch your business thrive.
Until next time, keep pushing forward and bringing your real estate dreams to life.
This is Cory Wall
and Kristin James signing off from Momentum in Real Estate.